Hey everybody, Marissa here with my dad, Joe Morris.
Hey, folks.
And we are here today with Answers Heaven Speaks or Ask Jesus. Today I think it's more of a Answers Heaven Speaks type of day because we're going to call on the guides because I just listened to the most frustrating podcast I've heard in a long time because it was somebody that I kind of see as like a peer that's, way more successful than me. But, somebody that kind of does what I do that's gotten into mediumship and channeling more recently. And the amount of misinformation that is coming through this person and the people that she's having on
Oh,
her show is like, uh,
not good. Not good. Not good. Not good.
no, it's you'd expect it from like, just like brand new people that are just learning and they're just kind of like all blah 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 blah. But I mean, to tell everybody that Claire sentience is to just know that's Claire sentience is what my dad has. He feels like that's why he felt my hands on him when I was doing a Reiki session on him. When my hands were really this far away, there's Claire sentience, and then there's the it's and they're like, yeah, clairsentience is when you just know. I'm like, no, it's claircognizance. I was screaming at the podcast the whole time, and this person's got millions of followers. So now everybody thinks that clairsentience is the ability to just know. So there were so many things wrong with that podcast. I'm a little frustrated right now.
Well, what we are, folks, is Marissa had an accident, and over time, starting from about 2010, 29, 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, 29, I think, 2009.
2008 was when I had the accident.
You
2009
had
was
the
when I
accident.
crashed your car.
Yeah, and then we
We didn't talk for a year.
we didn't talk to each other for a year, and I think we got back together. What was it
Father's Day.
Christmas? Oh, it was Father's Day in 2010. So
Yeah.
29, 2010, I didn't know what was going on. But by 2011, you were channeling.
Yeah.
And it brought us back closer together again because I was very curious about what you were doing. And me being a Christian, I'm going, maybe we better go talk to our pastors. We went and
Mm-hmm.
talked to our pastors. A lot of good that did.
Yeah. Got
They
kicked out.
basically, yeah, they basically condemned us, saying, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Don't talk to Jesus. You're not allowed to talk to Jesus. Oh, I
But
talk to
now
Jesus
having a
all the
good
time, but
pastor, I
you
realized
can't
our
talk.
pastors just didn't know what they were talking about. Those two had no idea what they were talking about. At least
That's
said,
just the way it is. I mean, there's
yeah.
over 100,000 sects of Christianity around the world, maybe more, a million. I mean, every Christian does their own thing. And no wonder Muslims and Islam look at Christians as a bunch of wackos uh, because they think that they do everything so perfect. But you know what? If our government was set up theologically like theirs, yeah, the United States would be perfect and there'd be nobody happy because everybody would have to be following one God. You can't
Mm-hmm.
pronounce, you can't talk about anything else. And if you do, there's a snitch around the corner that's going to tell. And next thing you know, you're in jail for the rest of your life.
Well, my friend
Yeah.
from Jordan told me they learned about it in school. They their religion is taught like it's like how we have like separating what state from religion or whatever. They don't have that
Yeah.
like in Jordan where she was raised. She says they learn the Muslim religion in grade school, like all through school.
Yeah.
It's all intertwined. So that's all they know.
Yeah. I know. I know. It's really sick what they teach them too. They teach them hate. They teach them to hate the Jews, which is just ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. And so anyway, I don't know if we should get into.
Well, our country
Uh,
teaches people that are, that may like to have sex with the same gender or whatever to hate people that are straight if they don't agree
yeah.
with them. Or, it's all the cultures are just so turning everybody against each other if they're not exactly the same. And that's just, to me, it's we're all the same in the sense that we're all souls created, not necessarily equal because all souls are not equal, but God created us to experience life. And if we're not like somebody else, we shouldn't hate them. We should celebrate our differences and if we're curious, be like, oh, ooh, why are you like that? Or why instead of like you're different, you're wrong, you're taboo, stuff like that. So it was a conversation I was just having with one of my clients who's fighting cancer now for the third year and it's come back and I was reading the energy and it all led back kind of to her getting sucked into all those things that were going on in 2020, just, I'm not going to get into them because we'll just get blacklisted or shadow
Yeah.
banned or something, but just
Yeah.
all those things where everyone was like posting pictures of, their hand with another person's hand, like, it's just, it's our way of feeling like we have virtues, and like we want everyone to know how good of a person we are. And if we find this social issue at this time to be something that we want to represent or whatever, then we feel like we're a good person by the people that are in that group, and then we feel worthy, when that should not be what makes us feel worthy. What should make us feel worthy is ourselves and our connection with God, and just not even trying to feel worthy. It's like, people that try to like prove that they're not a cheater. Like, I'm just going to prove to my wife I'm not a cheater. It's like, well, you're probably trying to prove that because you probably are, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to try and prove to everyone that you're not a liar, you're probably a liar. So it's like trying to prove stuff isn't that one of the sins, like pride? Trying to prove to people stuff that you are, because if you are something, you shouldn't have to prove that you are that. You should just be it, and that's it. And that was Rosemary.
Oh
Says
yeah.
you should just be able to just be what you are. And if you just be what you are and you're good with that and you're connected, to everything that is you with that, you should never, ever, ever have to make comments or virtue signal or, do anything to prove to anybody that you are good. Because if you're trying to prove that you're good, that means that you actually think you're very, very bad inside. And you're trying to make up for that, whatever that is inside, whether your parents told you you're a bad boy or girl when you were little and you believed them even though you weren't. Maybe you're trying to make up for that, or maybe you really are a bad person and you killed someone or something like that, or or hurt somebody very badly. So yeah, but I won't get into any of the actual things, because then we'll be called like racists even though we're not racist, or whatever. Don't need that.
Well, once again, I'm a Christian. Marissa is a spiritualist. I
I'm
brought my
sort of Christian now too, though.
Yeah, she's Christian now.
Mhm.
We brought them up. We brought our kids up as Christians, but when you become um, free, when you leave the home at 18 or whatever, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. That's it. And most people, not all, but most people forget all about God when they hit their 20s. And maybe in about their early 30s, they start bringing it back in a little bit slowly. But usually when they're in their 40s or 50s, people are finally getting that intuition that, what, there's a lot more than what's going on in this world. And maybe I should start paying attention. And by then, if their kids have become teenagers, they're never going to get control of them. The kids are going to have to learn to find God on their own. But it's so confusing. I mean, God is just so very, very confusing. Now, what we do is we've got books. We got a lot of books that we wrote, and
I feel like teenagers are very susceptible. I was very, very, very persuaded by the Calvary Church when I was 13, and I got baptized myself at a young life thing. And I was even though you say that I only would go so I could hang out with my friends, I actually really loved my pastor. His name was Vinny, and I really, really would feel like something inside of me. I would feel like that, like happy cry feeling whenever he would talk, and he was our pastor, and we went to this big Young Life concert where Switchfoot which was actually the kids of our other pastor from Calvary Chapel, were playing before they were even like super famous. I remember them playing, and they were saying, if you accept Jesus Christ into your heart as your Lord and Savior, raise your hand. And I remember I didn't even look around to see if other people were doing it. I raised my hand and I ran up to the front of the stage. And I mean, my parents weren't there. I was there with the group. And I remember I cried for like 30 minutes. I never told my mom or dad. I never told anybody. I remember crying for like 30 minutes about thinking of all the times I laid in my room thinking, I'm bad, or I'm lonely, or, whatever. I don't know. Kids get sad for whatever reason. You don't understand it. And I just remember feeling this warm feeling come over me. But then unfortunately, there was a bad seed that hung out with all those kids. Her name was, you remember her, it started with a C. And, we had just moved back from being out of town. We moved to Escondido. And when I moved back, I didn't have any of my friends anymore. So I was hanging out with these people, and we snuck out one night, and I did not want to. And those girls were making out with boys and doing all this stuff, and we snuck back in. And then I was banned from hanging out with those girls anymore. So I didn't get to go to church anymore either. But I was a teenager, and I think if you do have teenagers, let them go to youth group, let them go to like the Young Life and stuff like that, because I do think that the pastors, if they're good, I think that kids from now, talking to kids those ages, between the ages like 12 to like 17, are really seeking. They have that feeling inside of, I'm bad because my parents say I'm bad because I'm a teenager. And the second kids turn from 12 to 13, they're treated completely different. Oh, you're a teenager now. Now you know everything. Now you're going to talk back. It's like, no, I'm actually just 12 years and one day now. It's like it's the stereotype of how we treat our children and we treat kids based on their age. It's kind of a sad thing, how we change the way we treat them when they're still just our little kids. But the I think that we are very susceptible. I think when we hit, like, you're right, 18 or 19, it's like proof God's gone. If we don't have a foundation for them there, it's the last thing on our mind, because we can't really feel it. But what the guides are saying is that when we're 12, that's when our soul starts to step in and introduce itself to our brain. And at 14 is when it fully kind of self actualizes into our body, which we are then given the ability to reproduce, and create more humans that have souls. But prior to that, we can't reproduce because we don't have a soul. Like, we don't have our Christ soul infused within us. We have our spirit from the earth, but we don't have our soul. That's really interesting, Jesus. Hold on, let me ask one question about that. So prior to age 12, we don't have a soul. He says, prior to age 12, you have your parents' souls. You live in your parents' space, your parents' souls. When you become 12, which is why many do they do communion or whatever when you're 12 in the church?
Um,
Or
boys
13?
boys have a bar mitzvah in Jewish when they're 13, but nothing happens in Christianity.
What about
Um,
Catholicism? Catholicism, I think they do something.
Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not Catholic, and I don't know their traditions. I really
Maybe
don't.
somebody does. Maybe someone wants to put it in the comments. But yeah, but what they're saying is that so many of these things where they have these parties or these initiations for kids, it's to initiate this new layer of consciousness, like we're an onion, or like in our book Ask Jesus, we talk about the Tupperware bowls. A Tupperware bowl within a Tupperware bowl within a Tupperware bowl, each carry different information. And so our brain moves from one bowl to the next bowl, and each one has different information in it. So yeah, Jesus is saying the only reason why we're able to reproduce is because we need a soul to reproduce, because the soul is what is duplicated and then thereby put into the child, and the child has that soul until they get their own individual soul. So basically, like your kids are a reflection. They are you up until about age 12. Like, they're literally you. And that makes sense. Think of all the kids that are just like, I was watching all the kids walk into soccer, not soccer, into school today with their parents, and like, the kids, just they're dressed just like their parents, even though the parents are dressed like 30, 40 year olds. The kids are dressed like their parents. A lot of them, they just look like little clones of their parents. It's cute. But then kids have their own soul when they turn 12 to 14, and that's when parents are like, you think you have your mind of your own now, I don't like you anymore. Whatever, because they've then taken on their own divine essence. It's really interesting.
Hmm.
Anyways, okay. Go ahead. Sorry, the guide's cut off. I don't even know what we were saying.
I was going to ask a question as I read about the Bible and alien visitors, but if I could ask Jesus one thing,
Yeah.
if you keep it kind of short, do humans even have the capacity to understand who God is? Seriously, is it something that we have to learn and memorize, or is there something that tells us that there is something greater than us? And why is this stuff all so complicated? Why is it all so complicated about all the different dimensions and all the different worlds and all the different places? And it's so complicated. God is so complicated. It's hard to
Samuel's
understand.
here.
Who's here?
Samuel.
Oh, that's God.
Samuel, and the one with the twirling mustaches in front of him, which I know is Bill. So I need to ask Bill to move out of the way.
Yeah.
I
He,
don't want to channel him yet
he
or
really
now
wants
or
to get in,
whatever.
doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he
Wow.
keeps trying to come in every day. When we meet, he just wants to keep saying I was wrong and we are right, or I think he wants to go through and edit the books or something like that. But I don't want to do that right now. So Okay, so this is Saint Germain, but I know it's Bill, and but I'm asking him to move aside, and he's actually moving to the
Because
Christ side, so that's good. So Samuel says, okay, hold on, let me just say a prayer. So, Heavenly Father God, we just ask that my higher self, Papa's higher self, everyone's higher selves join as one, whereby we don't affect each other, and we just bring in energies for our highest and best good that's in resonance with unconditional love and light, and only that which is good come through. I don't want to have to make any sort of discerning thoughts to decide whether I should say something or not. I just only want to be told what I should say, like a teleprompter. There we go. Calling in Christ, calling in our guardian angels, calling in our mentors, our teachers and guides, and everyone else's mentors, teachers, and guides. We allow them in. Any fifth dimensional guides and above, as long as they're for our highest and best good. Amen. Okay, so now all the aliens are here when I do that.
okay,
Okay, so
actually, I want to rephrase my question. I think there are people that have that inner knowing when they know God, but how do you teach a 6-year-old about God? How do you
okay.
teach a 6-year-old about God?
Okay, well, Samuel's going to first answer the first question, and then he's going to answer the second question. Mary's going to answer the second question. So Samuel
Okay.
says, when you speak to me, I am the consciousness that is God. What we'd like to tell you is look at consciousness not as a person, not as a spirit, but look at consciousness as a brain. So a brain has very many dimensions to it. No, he says, like no question mark. And Peter says yes, and he says exactly. You've got the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere, you've got the hippocampus, you've got the hypothalamus, you've got the cerebral cortex, you've got all the different parts of the brain that have different jobs. And when you look at consciousness, well, we want you to think of it more like with the dimensions and all these things. It's those that are more like a soul scientist. Like this channel is more of a soul scientist trying to understand the intricacies of all the different layers of the human mind that can perceive and understand the soul. So this is why it gets so confusing. You don't need to study the brain to go and understand that when your head hurts, it hurts and you take a Tylenol. If it continues to hurt, maybe you have your brain looked at. But do you ask the doctor about all the different aspects of your brain? Probably not. You just believe them that, oh, take this, take 2 of these and call me in the morning type of situation. You feel better, so you're good. Those that are very interested in being a soul scientist and understanding the science of the soul are interested in the dimensions and all of these things because it allows for the consciousness, the brain, to ascend through time and evolve. Now, God, on the other hand, is not the consciousness. God is the space that the consciousness creates in. God is the ever expansive space that is filled with nothing but unconditional love, whereby the consciousness can create in. So God is a space. And when one opens up their heart to this space that is God, this is when they can begin to truly create a life that they love. So if you can look at God as a space and you can look at consciousness with all the different dimensions and things of this sort, those are all inside of God. So, in order to feel God, in order to know that God is with you, you must just ask. You must just ask. Ask to feel God inside of you, or ask to feel God, or ask to step into God and feel what it feels like to be God. Understand that it's that simple. The thing that makes it confusing too is religion, whereby they say you can only get to God through the Son, through Christ. And this is true if you want to get into the space that you create in that isn't based on fear, guilt, shame, blame, all the things of the ego. We sit here each day and we listen to the lives around this channel whereby people say, well, that's your fault. And that's your fault. And no, that's not my fault. That's your fault. Because human beings love to find fault in others so that they can release some stuff from their God space so that they can create in it. Because if you're carrying guilt, it's like having a whole bunch of boxes stacked up inside your God room, and your God room needs to be open and empty for you to create whatever it is that you want in it. To teach a 6-year-old about God, you must not allow them to believe that God is man, because a 6-year-old will automatically know God until they're taught that God is not God of their understanding. A 6-year-old will understand that they want to make their parent happy, so they're going to turn God into their parent. What you tell a 6-year-old is you ask them to feel inside of them where their light is. Say, where is your light? And they will tell you. Ask them where their spark is, and they will tell you. And then all you must do is just say, call your spark and your light back into your belly and breathe. They're saying like go like this. This is what Christina does with her kids in the class. They lay down like this, and she says, okay, pretend like you have a beach ball in your tummy. This is Christina MacArthur. She's one of my students, and we wrote a kids class together. She says, go. You breathe up, make it feel like a beach ball gets big in your tummy, and then breathe out. And then you breathe in again and breathe out. And she has the kids in her class. She does first grade. She has them breathe in and out until their spark and their light are inside their belly. And then after they've done that, they've breathed obviously, and they have their big beach ball in their belly with their spark and their light in it. They say, "Now, how do you feel?" That's what she does. She'll say, "How do you feel?" And they'll say, "Oh, I feel better. I don't feel upset. I don't feel sad. I don't feel mad. I don't feel angry. I don't feel stressed." So they feel what God is rather than knowing what God is. Because knowing what God is understanding all the dimensions and the realities and this. But kids' imaginations already go into all these dimensions. So they don't need to truly understand that. Because if you ask them about dimensions, they'll tell you. Because they're completely connected to their consciousness from the time they're born. If you ask them without having expose them to things prior to it. If you ask them questions like, "Oh, do you think there is more than one reality that we live in?" And they'll, "Oh yeah, totally." And they'll just start answering questions because they know it's the world that starts to mute what they believe to be true. Around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But some kids, like the kids born these days, are remaining completely open, and you'd be surprised at the divine information that they understand and know. It's just our inability to understand the divine information may sometimes mess up their beliefs and ideas because of the way that we question and ask. So have your 6-year-old feel God, feel their spark and feel their light. The spark equals the piece of them that comes from the earth. Their light is that which comes from the light, the all, the everything. And then their consciousness is that which comes from God. So let's just say it's the Holy Spirit is that light, is their light. Their Holy Spirit's their light. Their spark is what comes from the earth, and then they have their consciousness that lies within them, and that consciousness can be connected to their spark and their light, and then they'll be very bad kids, or if they're connected to their light and their spark, they'll be very good kids. And they don't even have to be taught the difference between good and bad. They just will be good or they'll just be bad. So if your child is having a very, very big temper tantrum, ask them, where is your light right now? And they may say, nowhere, and spit on you. And if they, where's your spark? They may get mad at you. Ask God, ask Source, ask whomever you pray to, the Father, ask Christ to return their spark and their light back into their chest and their belly, and they will change just like that. Because most likely their spark and their light are inside of you, and they're likely processing all of your emotions and feelings for you, the parent, because the kids came to rescue the parents. Always. Every child came to rescue their parent. But when they hit 12, that's no longer their mission anymore. They get their own spark, their own light, and the parent should have by then ascended and learned the lessons they needed to learn at that point by having had a child for 12 years. What? So every kid comes to save their parent. Every kid. Peter says every single kid. What if they adopt out? What if they adopt him out? He says they still bring the light, they still bring God's light down into the mom and the dad when they have a kid, even if they give them up for adoption. They reconnect them to God. But that's why it's important that they're married. Interesting.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they just get one or the other parents. They don't get both of the souls. Interesting. So what if you
Well,
adopt a child? If you adopt a child, then you also get a new beam of God light to you, and then your beam of light goes to them, and then when they turn 12, they regenerate another beam of light back into you. So children continue to give God back to you, even if you just adopt or if you foster even. It's a God said, go forth and reproduce. And that was for a reason. That's interesting.
hmm.
So,
Oh
so
well,
even though
I'll
our
let
kids
the
drive us crazy, they even though you feel like you want to die sometimes because your kids drive you nuts, they actually help you And Peter says, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Kids can make you go insane. I just felt so bad today. So bad today.
What happened?
Well, on Fridays, Tawny gets her allowance for being a good girl all week. Well, she wasn't such a good girl all week.
Uh-oh.
And then she created some problems with Drew on the way home from school and came in crying, which I cannot stand because I'd never like those guys to be fighting with each other. And then turned out that there was a number of things that happened. And I had to get mad at Tanya. I swear it was when I was in the hospital over July last year. Was it 2023 or 2022?
2022.
God, I can't even remember. I swore I would never yell at Tawny again. Never. But you know what? You when you're a parent, you're a parent. Then there are times when you just kind of have to lay it all out and yell at your kid. And I feel bad for her. She doesn't get her allowance this week. I took YouTube and TikTok away from her.
Oh, TikTok's not a good influence.
No, it isn't. But all her friends are on there. That's the problem. That's the problem with kids when they start getting up older. There's just so much peer pressure and to do the things that their friends are doing. And when they come home and they can't do the things that their friends are doing, then the parents are the worst people on earth. And it's hard to deal with. We love our children when they're babies and they're growing up, and you see all these changes and everything. And then when they get older, closer to teenagers, you want to send them away to a military academy because you can't deal with them. It's really tough to deal with them.
I watched a video of a little girl who watched a video. It wasn't real. Some people that covered their hands in like alcohol and then lit them on fire. So the little girl decided she was 8. She decided she was going to do that. She's now like 20 or whatever, but she decided she was going to do it, and she lit her hands on fire. Her whole body caught on fire. She's covered in scars, all because she watched it on YouTube. I mean, you just think of the biggest pervert, the biggest person that you would never ever want near your child talking about anything, and just figure they're all over YouTube and TikTok telling your child what's real. Because kids, honestly, until they're 12, whatever they see on TV is real. Like Matthew really honestly believes there's spy kids because we're letting him watch real shows now, not just cartoons. And so he thinks there's spy kids and he wants to be a spy kid. But he somehow gets into YouTube, even though I block it, and he watches those prank videos where they do pranks. And he wants to do pranks so bad all the time. And I said, Matthew, no, we're not going to shake the bottle and shoot the soda everywhere. We're not going to fill the pool with Orbeez. We're not going to catch this on fire. But yeah, kids, that's tough with YouTube and all that. Cause yeah, all the other kids watch it, but you know what? I would make her the biggest nerd in the whole wide world, and she'll love you later for it.
Yeah, well,
honestly,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't care how many kids I've raised. Every kid has a completely different personality, and it's on the job training.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There's just no way to automatically know how to treat each individual child. Anyway, where we left off yesterday, we're finishing up. We haven't read the whole book, but we read a little bit about Tesla and basically talking about the Enoch, the book of Enoch. And
Jesus is cutting me off. Jesus is saying, you have the ability to heal your child, Joe. You have the ability to heal your child. Imagine white and black little like golf balls. They're using golf balls for you. Black and white golf balls. Imagine a bunch of black and white golf balls. Imagine YouTube as a bundle. Use TikTok. Use her friends as a big like a vat. Just see a big vat representing different things that take your little girl away from you, that turn her into something other than what she was prior to whatever it is that changes her. Imagine a vat, and then just say, okay, Jesus, show me black and white golf balls. And those black and white golf balls, what you want to do, Jesus says, is ask that I shower these vats with Christ, with Christ and the Holy Spirit until all the black golf balls turn white. And then imagine Tawny standing there, the best image you have of Tawny, the just most innocent, just whatever you picture her as. Just say, show me Tawny in your mind, and imagine her standing in front of those vats, and then just say, Say, make my child whole again, Lord. Please make my child whole. I'm going to cry. Please make my child whole again. And all the little golf balls will fly back into her and she will be different. Because all the things that are influences by friends and by, some girl saying, oh, I'm going to tell this boy that you're his girlfriend, and her stressing about that, or whatever, all these things, they taint their little consciousnesses, their innocent little golf balls, and they turn them black. But ask Jesus to fill those and to clean them, and then just ask to have your child be made whole again, and imagine all those little golf balls going back into her, and then just imagine her changing, and then you'll see a big snow globe around her. Don't make the snow globe, just see the snow globe around her, and it'll be all shiny and bright. It'll never be perfect because we're never perfect, but just ask for those pieces of her that are stuck in the games, or whatever, to come back to her, and you'll feel the difference. Oh my God, I can't stop crying. That was very emotional.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
probably
I watch
probably talk.
Madison get less and less innocent every day, and I'm like, man, why'd she just say that? Oh, yeah, she learned from somebody at school, or she learned from something on TV, or whatever. And it's just like, oh, geez, scary.
Yeah. God was probably talking to you there, because I like my way of teaching Tani that, hey, we're all on God's TV. He knows. He watches us just like you watch your favorite television show. He's watching you too. You
But if
can't see
she's
him.
fractured, we're fractured. If we get fractured, she can't help it. She may be like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's because little pieces of us get stuck inside there. And yeah, no, I'm going to do that for my kids too. They're saying for anyone, for everyone, just those vats, because little pieces of us, it's in healing. They call it soul retrieval. Like little pieces of our soul get stuck in different little things. And eventually all of our life force energy isn't in us. And no matter how much we pray and ask, we don't feel whole. So that's when we can ask for our children to be made whole again. And I think that everybody that has a child will appreciate that.
Mhm.
I know for a fact they will.
Well,
Anyways, okay.
let's go off in another direction. You may have to, as you've been talking, I keep having breaks. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi, so I don't say anything because it's probably mine. But if I'm reading and all of a sudden I stop, let me know so I can go back over what you might have missed.
Okay.
We're in our book entitled Earth's Mysteries, Mysteries of Earth, and we're at the rear end of the book, where I'm trying to compare activities around the earth as seen by biblical times and how they described it. So we're at the point here where, in the book, where the title is The Bible and Alien Visitors. The Bible and Alien Visitors. I know this is a little bit different than what we've been talking about today. We just kind of opened up conversation today because Marissa and I were talking, and before we came on the show, and I said, you know what, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about it on here, because maybe there's just something when you're healing somebody else, you have the ability on here to be healing somebody else entirely. So hopefully in this first half hour, there's been something, a spark or some light or something that
Click your
has come into
screen, or give us a
somebody.
click your screen, or hit a like,
You're
or
frozen.
comment in the comment section if any
Still
of that
frozen.
resonated with you. Yeah, it's not frozen, but if it resonated with you guys, go ahead and comment in the comment section, if any of that resonated with you. Just curious.
You keep
One more thing about
freezing.
that blog that podcast that drove me crazy. One more thing. You're not frozen. I'm not
Okay.
frozen. Okay. And one more thing that drove me crazy about that podcast was that they were saying that every single person in this earth is a medium, or everyone's psychic, but not everybody's a medium. And that if you get information that comes to you, you need to celebrate that and believe it no matter what. No, don't believe everything that comes to you. If you're an aspiring medium, don't be like, all, yes, I saw a spark of light out of the corner of my eye, so now I know that it's this or that. Like, no, no, no. And they were saying also that seeing is the highest level of communication with spirit, and no, it's the lowest. It's if you can see with your eyeballs, it means you're still so dense down in the lower realms that you're seeing stuff. Claircognizance is the highest claircognizance and hearing are the highest level of communication with God. If you can hear with the way you'd hear a memory, or the way you'd hear somebody's voice in your head, not like audibly. If you can hear audibly, that's kind of low too. But the knowing, just knowing what God is saying to you, knowing what your intuition is, that's the highest level of sensing God. So most people that are claircognizant will say, or what they were calling on this podcast, clairsentient, which is so wrong. They it's if you have that, like, appreciate that and know that. But even if you have that knowing and you're like, well, God told me this and it's the highest level of knowing, so I know that this and that, you also need to ask, am I receiving this information from God, or am I receiving it from my ego? Because a lot of times we'll be receiving it from our ego, which is fine too. That's also God communicating with us. But the ego is usually warning us over something based on a fear that isn't really real. So we always have to have discernment, and we always have to take what we feel or sense or see and pull it into our heart and imagine light around our heart. And if it dissolves in our heart, then it's no good. If it expands our heart, then it's something that's worthwhile and hanging on to, So this podcast drove me nuts. I want to write to them, I already wrote to her during the Black Lives Matter things, and she wrote back and bitched me out. So we're not on good terms.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I was watching Jordan Peterson and the Senator Ted Cruz on a show with Bill Maher, um, of politically incorrect fame. But Bill Maher he's an atheist, and he admits it. And he was making such fun of somebody. I couldn't whether it was. I think he was making fun of Jordan Peterson, which isn't a very smart thing to do, because this guy is like genius, very, very smart guy from Canada. And Bill Maher said, "You stupid Christians, you stupid religious people, you think you're talking to God when you pray. You're not talking to God. You're just talking to yourself, convincing yourself how to make your next move." And I just sat there and I went, I wonder what it's going to be like when he dies. When he dies, he's going to be like Bill Gladstone. He's going to go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I got it all so wrong. How can I get it so wrong?"
I know. Bring Christ to me. Hurry. Get me the Christ consciousness. I don't like it here. It feels empty. I'm a rock. Yeah.
It's kind of hot. It's kind of hot. What happened to the clouds and the rain and the beautiful sights and trees? Everything's dark down here.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into this. Today's Friday. God, time's going a little slow here today. Unless my watch stopped. So we've used up a little over a half hour. Actually,
we've only got like 15 minutes left. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let me read this and I'll let you pop in and finish up for the week.
Okay.
This is entitled The Bible and Alien Visitors. And this was our commentary before we get into some channeling. Many people believe that the Star of Bethlehem was a UFO. This is my commentary. Was a UFO, a vehicle from another world. Some even believe that Jesus was delivered by a spaceship in this star. Keep in mind that those in biblical times had a hard time describing something they didn't understand. At that time, man could not fly, but angels did. How do they know the angels fly? Unless they actually saw them. At that time, man could not fly, but angels did. And the means of transportation for the elite were chariots. So in many, if not most cases, the biblical authors used chariots as a word of choice to describe things that flew in the sky, notably in the book of 2 Kings. Other references are to a wheel or a disc-shaped object, and that can be found in the book of Ezekiel in the Old Testament. Moses frequently mentioned the presence of the cloud chariots, quoting, "The Lord descended in the cloud," end quote. And then, quote, "The Lord came down in a cloud. The Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire." The prophet Daniel also described the use of a cloudy chariot for cosmic transportation. In 2 Kings is written, "And it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven." Old Testament passages from 2 Kings 2, Psalm 68 and Habakkuk 3 describe cosmic craft as a chariot of fire with horses of fire and
Wait,
charioteers
go back
and
two
whirlwind.
sentences.
Old Testament passages from 2 Kings 2, Psalms 68, and Habakkuk 3 describe cosmic craft as a, quote, chariot of fire with, quote, horses of fire and, quote, charioteers and, quote, whirlwind as the means to leave the ground. In Zechariah 6, 1-7, 4 cosmic pilots are dispatched in as many chariots which come out from between two mountains. That's in Zechariah. The prophet Zechariah is informed that each charioteer had flight orders to go to a different part of the country, to, quote, walk to and fro throughout the earth, end quote. That's in Zechariah. As we've already learned in the book of Enoch, which
Now, is this in the Bible? This is not in the Bible, right?
This is all Bible. I'm reading you Bible passages.
Oh.
Yeah, these are what you
I
find
thought they took out
the
all
Bible.
the Enoch stuff.
They did, but I included it because it was such a magnificent find in 1947. They realized that they hid away all the Enochs in about 400 to 500 A.D. after Christ. They hid them all. Because they even said anybody that teaches from this book will be sent to the lions, so to speak. Yeah, what's his name? Constantine did not want the book of Enoch in there. But if you go to the Ethiopian
Bible, they have like 123 books in their son.
No, they got 84, and one of them, our Bible has 66. They have 84, and one of their books is Enoch. Anyway, as we've already learned in the book of Enoch 7:12, are the non-terrestrials who desire the daughters of men for their own interest. It happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that elegant, beautiful daughters were born to them. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. That's from the book of Enoch. Sounds a lot like Genesis, doesn't it? It's same. Moses took Enoch's account and put it into Genesis. Anyway, many theologians and other researchers tend to believe, based upon ancient texts, including the Sumerian text, that the Bible contains many passages relating to extraterrestrial visitations, including a belief that Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed by nuclear weapons. There are accounts of sand melted into glass, of ruined temples with vitrified portions of stone walls, and of ancient cities that had been destroyed by what appears to have been extreme heat that could not have been formed without the heat of something similar to a nuclear blast. No army or fire. This is my commentary. After all, we have a bunch of conversations, we have a lot of channeling or whatever, and then I consolidate it. And that's what I've done. I've consolidated our conversations. So no army or fire could have created glass at that time. They also mention other ancient texts that describe flying machines, advanced technology, and terrifying weapons wielded by the gods. We'll conclude this section with some references to Indian lore for more accounts of extraterrestrial activity. This book, our book, continually points out, as do many traditions worldwide that are not included here, that a war between the forces of light and darkness raged in humankind's prehistory. And as seen in the Anunnaki account in here, rival extraterrestrial forces fought for dominance over prehistoric Earth. And in our channeling sessions, reference is made to warring factions described as sons of light and dark fallen beings. Biblical references indicate nervousness about enslaving mankind, but whatever may have caused the physical evidence, someone or something was exercising power of formidable energy. Here are more biblical passages alluding to extraterrestrials. You mentioned Colossians yesterday. Our first one is Colossians. Colossians 1:16. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him, for him. So they're saying in Colossians that everything you see is still created by God. We don't understand it. We don't even know if it's real, but it's still created by God. Deuteronomy 4:19. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things. The Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. Don't know what that even means.
Read that again.
When you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. I kind of know what the first part meant, but I don't know what the second half means. Anyway, Deuteronomy 17:3, Old Testament. And contrary to my command, has worshipped other gods, bowing down to them or to the sun or the moon or the stars in the sky. Ephesians, New Testament 2:19. Consequently, you're no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of his household. Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Exodus 12:49. The same law applies both to the native born and to the foreigner residing among you. The same law applies both
Who's
to
the
the
foreigner?
native born. That's just it. Is he talking about extraterrestrial foreigners? Is he talking about someone that comes from Syria into Jerusalem or into Palestine? I don't
Does
know.
he bring up the foreigner again, or does he just bring it up just right that moment?
Well, in this case, he's referring to foreigners, like Mexicans or foreigners in the United States. Exodus 22:21 goes on and says, do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. And that's when they were slaves.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Exodus 23:9. Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners, because you were foreigners in Egypt. But they talk about foreigners as being up there. And I don't know who Daniel, or whether it was Jude, or whether it was in the book of Hebrews, or in Zechariah or Jeremiah 4. This is Ezekiel 1:4.
I just
like
heard someone
Ezekiel.
saying, "Woo! I made it out of there! I made it out of there!" And I can't tell who it is.
This is Ezekiel 1:4. I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal. Ezekiel 1:6. But each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. He's either crazy. These people are either crazy, or they're seeing things and describing them as best they can, because they don't know. I mean, we take flying for granted. The birds fly, the airplanes fly, everybody flies. But when you come from a time when nothing flew except a bird, and then all of a sudden they're glowing and burning with fire and in whirlwinds taking people up, that's got to make a little bit of an impression on them. Genesis 1:26. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. Genesis 2:1. We're going to run out of time, and I wanted to ask Jesus another question.
Ask a question.
Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. Okay, very straightforward question. Yes or no? Okay, let's see if Jesus can give me a yes or no question.
Okay.
Were there, what do you call them? Bipeds? People who walk? Bipeds? Whether they're from Earth or from somewhere else. Were there bipeds with wisdom and knowledge prior to the dinosaurs?
No.
Okay. So all new life, all life that we're keep trying to investigate is stuff that's come after the
we were the dinosaurs.
I wonder what the purpose was for
We
inhabiting the
were the
earth with
dinosaurs.
dinosaurs.
We
Yeah,
were the
why?
dinosaurs.
They were the dinosaurs?
We were. We were the
Dinosaur?
dinosaurs.
Oh, we were the dinosaurs?
We were.
Did
We were. Whatever creatures were living on this earth. That's what where our consciousness would live within. It wasn't until the human soul was created and entered into this reality whereby the soul reflected upon itself and created human beings. So the soul is a different, remember, we're consciousness. We're not a soul. We're not a spirit. There's a spirit in every single thing that's on this earth, including a dinosaur, including everything. There's a spirit.
so
It spits out of the center of the earth. Hmm?
Hindus are correct. Hindus are correct then. They feel that God's in everything, including
God
rocks
is
and
in
trees.
everything, absolutely everything. Yes, but
Okay.
but it doesn't mean it's a living, breathing thing. There's a spirit in
Okay.
absolutely everything. That's why there's a spirit in this pen. There's a spirit in everything that's created. It's the soul that feels emotions and feels and suffers and feels trapped here on earth. It's the soul that was the creation of Christ that gave us the ability to feel love and to feel hate and to feel all this. And that's what Adam and Eve opted in for when they ate the fruit. They chose, well, you know what? I don't just want to be a spirit of the earth and be a creation of the earth and just, I want to actually feel what it feels like. And that's when the first soul was made. And that soul was like a shattered soul. It was to feel, to feel good, to feel good and to feel bad. So dinosaurs, no, there were no beings that had souls in them, and the beings that we were like the dinosaurs. Then we were birds. Then we were this. We were dolphins. We were all these different things, and our consciousness is just move. I mean, like Bill was a rock for 2 million years. Remember, his consciousness was a rock for 2 million years. So some of us have been rocks. Some of us have been trees, and we just evolved. It doesn't mean that our soul was a horse before or anything. It just means our consciousness has pretty much been everything because our consciousness is God. But the soul is a different story. And the soul is what we're here on, is a soul journey. And that soul evolves and grows, and the consciousness will go and be different things. It doesn't mean the soul's reincarnated, it just means the consciousness. If we identify as our consciousness, then but we won't always evolve as a soul. And that's what Bill was. He was his consciousness. And that's why he's his consciousness. And that's why he's like, give me Christ, because Christ then brings you back your feeling, emoting, your feelings and emotions and all that stuff, and allows you to feel love again instead of just knowledge and stuff like that. But dinosaurs didn't have emotions and feelings. They were just like, rah, rah. And I don't even think that dinosaurs were as big as we say they were. I think they were pretty small.
Yeah,
What?
we've got we've got bones. We have bones to prove they're very
It
big.
was a different dimension, just like the pyramids. The pyramids seemed so big to us when we made them. They weren't that big. We were way bigger. Like we were bigger. Like when human beings came along, when there were dinosaurs, all that stuff, we were bigger. They were bigger. Pyramids were bigger. Now we're just these little people, and we'll continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Okay, let me do finish up with Hebrews
We're up 55
11:13.
minutes.
Okay, Hebrews 11:13. Then I'll let it go. Or actually 13 and then 13:2. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. Strangers on earth. Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. So anyway, that's what we're. You all know this. You all know this. You know that there's just things in the Bible we just don't understand, and there are things in the Bible that even the saints and the prophets and everybody didn't quite fully understand. But that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do when we put these shows together every day, is to try and bring Jesus into the 21st century. And since Marissa has the ability to channel Jesus, it's kind of nice to get him in real time. So I don't know what happened. I think we lost Marissa. I'm gonna guess that Marissa lost her, but I don't know. Oh, there you are. Okay, you've got to
Yeah,
wrap
someone
up,
called me
Marissa.
and it knocked off the sound. That was annoying.
I
But we
know.
still
I
have
hate.
everyone's still on here. We still have like 211 people on here.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. But we'll get a lot of them over the weekend. Thank goodness. Be sure to re-upload this. You didn't yesterday.
211 people is a lot of people to have on here. We never have 211 people.
Well, it's nice that we do.
That's cool.
But again,
Hey, everyone.
yesterday you didn't re-upload yesterday, so they had to go out of Streamfare, and we got very little reach, very little. So you need to re-upload this.
I did yesterday. We just didn't do a show yesterday.
We did a show yesterday. We
Oh,
didn't do a
before
show
we
on
did-
Wednesday. We didn't.
Yeah, okay.
Just make
Time
sure
flies. Time
just
flies.
just make sure you re-upload this sometime
Oh
today,
yeah, I will.
so that we'll send it out over the weekend. So go ahead, take us home. I'm done.
All
for the
right,
day.
all right. Okie dokie, everyone. And I did re-upload a show yesterday. That's weird. Okay, anyways, okay. All right. Hi, Mama. Mama just said hi, Pam. I want to say hi to Pam. Pam saying hi to Mama. And let's see here. Who else was here? Luz and there was a whole bunch of people here. Hi, everybody, and hi, everyone on Instagram. If you guys have any questions that you want us to ask the guides, please. This should be like a very interactive show. I want you to basically be able to ask questions so that we can answer them too, because we run out of questions. That's why, that's just surprising too. But anyways, if what we're saying is confusing, just say, hey, I'm confused. If Shelly Myers was here, she'd be throwing a million questions. I should invite her to watch the shows because she'd have a million questions for us. I love her. Anyways, okay, guys, and I love you, Pam. You're always here. Thank you so much, and everybody else that comes every single day. We appreciate you. Jesus says, let's see here. I've got about 1 minute. So Jesus is just saying, remember, the Christ inside of you is the fully emotionally evolved piece of you. Ask yourself right now, the next time you get in an argument with your child or with somebody that you love, say, how old am I right now emotionally? And then ask, how old are they? And if you're 4 and they're 20, just take a step back and say, you know what, Christ, help me to mature emotionally before I spit one more word out of my mouth. And please, please, God, allow me to mature emotionally before, or intellectually mature, or emotionally become more emotionally intelligent. Use emotionally intelligent words. Ask to be made more intelligent emotionally before you say anything else. Otherwise, just zip and be quiet, and life will be a whole lot better. We bless you. We bless you. We bless you.